And welcome back. We've
Welcome
got
back. Welcome back.
Luluchroar versus Magnetonics coming up. This is a really interesting matchup for me, and it's also, I think, probably my favorite one of the tournament so far. This is two players who I think truly embody what it means to be like a very, very good player at this game, to kind of go from being a good player to like an insanely good player. And it's the ability to intimately understand everything that your team does, make it so that you completely understand what your team is trying to do and that your opponent has no clue. The person you're playing against is, not aware of the combos you're trying to pull off, of the leads you want to pick. Both of these players kind of march to the beat of their own drum, but they do it in a way that has a strong internal logic, and they always have a plan of how their teams are going to operate. And watching these two players go up against each other, I think, is going to be peak Temtem, so I'm excited to see it. What about you, B-Flat?
I didn't think that we were going to get a better matchup post Rem and SNR Plat, and then we see this matchup. I'm going to call this the battle of creativity because both of these players are very, very great at being creative in their own building aspect. We see Tems that we haven't seen on any other team in this entire tournament. Magnetonics is bringing a Psypat, for example. Luluchroar is bringing a Munko, for example. I think the thing that we need to watch out for is the Scare Revolt because there's only one Earth on the Luluchroar's team, and Scare Revolt can be very nasty if it can be left unchecked here.
Yeah, these players are also very good at starting draft quickly, so we're going to get right into it here. We've got the early Tuvine pickup from Magnetonics. We'll see if Luluchroar goes for the double Tuvine. That's an opener that he has really traditionally liked playing. Of course, the Determined trait does sort of shut things down in that respect, if that's the trait that Magnetonics is running, so we'd have to see kind of what that option is. Lulu is landing Transmog Mimit as opposed to our last two players who played Striking, but it looks like Lulu's just going to go for a double heat up turn opener here. This is very dangerous for Mag. He kind of has to like pick a slot, and whichever slot he doesn't pick is going to essentially get almost a free heat up. He can try and like space out his double and like hit either side, but Lulu obviously has responses to this, right? So it forces Magnetonics into a very weird second pick on blue here, which on blue, normally that's your strongest pick.
Lulu's kind of adapting to being on orange here, like you were mentioning, forcing Magnetonics into the side pad because everything else isn't really great to team up with this tubing here. Being able to take out the Tutsu here would actually be very smart for Lulu to eliminate a lot of the tag team synergies that Magnetonics can bring into the back half of the team. It would be a good opening, but also this Saku is a little bit dangerous too in the back half. So we'll see what Lulu wants to take out here.
For those of you who were watching yesterday, at the end of the stream, you would have recalled that we did Magnetonics versus Genesect, and that was a game where Magnetonics just had way more bulk and way more speed. Not way more, but enough speed more than Genesect that he could control and win the matchup. This is very different. Lulu isn't just playing an aggressive team, he's playing an aggressive team that uses moves that will rapidly scale up his damage. So that means that Magnetonics is actually forced to come out and really defend himself early on in the match. If Lulu gets too many free setup turns, he will break the wall. It's not actually that hard to do so with a Tem like Seismunch or Hazrat or Osiara, or even something that Ragnet is helping set up, or the double humiliating slap opener. Like, Lulu is very good at breaking walls and setting up quickly, so Magnetonics is going to have to hustle early on in this game to establish a strong enough defense that keeps Lulu honest.
We're seeing a lot of those Tems being picked too. We have the Heat Up opener, we have the Cerbicio's Wrath Oshiara in the back. We have Ragnet, which has, 6-7 moves that he can slot easily. And if you are predicting wrong on the move set that it has, it could actually turn the tides really, really late into the game, or even early as a setup. We'll see if this Ragnet does come in, but it might be the Tuvine.
Yeah, it's worth pointing out that now that the Monka was banned out, the only Tem that Lulu has that synergizes with Seismunch Wreck is going to be the Mimit if it turns into a Seismunch, and that size is actually in the wrong spot to do that. So look for Lulu to maybe potentially try to steal a melee from Magnetonics using Landing Transmog if he wants Seismunch to get that synergy. As we go, game number 1 of the best of 3 set, Mag versus Lulu. Let's get it on.
The Hazrat Marbles is already going to be doing that true damage, the 5% to take some stamina down and also some HP. It's worth pointing that out because Marbles has a lot of value very early on. You get 2 Tems to get hit by it, and if Magnetonics is looking to swap here, that's going to be another Marbles proc to go off, and Marbles stacking up is very, very dangerous, especially if you're going to be Tems like Hazrat or Seismunch or even Oshiara to scale up that damage, where Marbles takes Tems down to a point where they could be KO'd, where in some cases, if you're calcing for it, you wouldn't be KO'd normally, but Marbles can get you over that breakpoint to eliminate Tems that may otherwise not be able to.
Yeah, there's an interesting dynamic with this turn where Lulu potentially has a KO if he just goes for like 2 quick attacks onto Saipat, for instance, or 2 quick attacks onto Tuvin. But Magnetonics is traditionally very bulky, so Lulu may opt not to do that and instead try to reposition or just go for a double heat up gambit. Basically like, hit me. I dare you. I'm going to outspeed you and deal a ton of damage on the next turn, so you've got this one opportunity sort of to make it count. On the other hand, though, Magnetonics does actually have a lot of upfront threat. Feather Gatling from Tuvin will do a ton of damage to Hazrat. Schweinsword Nox Bomb will rock Size. So instead we see a swap out. Seismunch is going to go for Mimit, so we're double Hazratting here. This is likely going to be followed by a fire move. No, it's a swap out. So Hazrat switching spots and Osiara coming in as well. This is an interesting swap play from Lulu early on here. Just trying to make Magnetonics kind of flub his opener a little bit.
Oh, the Schween's Horn.
It hits the rat.
It's quite a bit of damage. Doubling up on it? No, he's splitting.
Yeah, so Magnetonics, like we said, does actually try to go for the green circle opener, and that swap play from Lulu does kind of help him cover it a little bit, but he still took so much damage early on here. One of the things that has come up before with Lulu as a player is he very strongly values swaps, even when he's playing teams that don't have a lot of natural bulk. So he's positioned decently here, but no, he gets outsped. The Nicho Sai coming in. He's trying to ride the horse. Can he take it down? Oh, but Lulu so tanks it. Not what you would expect from an Osiara at all. That is one bulky horse.
Shinobi Tactics is not going to allow Saipat to get the amphibian proc here.
Oh, but he's outsped again!
Turbine takes out the Mimit.
Did he go for... He must have gone for wastewater, right?
Yeah, because...
Ah, man, either that or it's Fast Vine. That is incredible stuff here. So the Osiara...
Potentially. Wow.
The Osiara is charged up, but this is a very desolate looking position for Lulu as Hazrat comes in, but now the Osiara, even its own prio move, is going to be outsped by Ninja Jutsu from the Saipat, which means that this Osiara can't stay on the board, which creates a situation where Mag can kind of swing with impunity into this Hazrat with Feather Gatling, provided Lava Wave probably doesn't bring it down, and Magnetonics might just be faster.
The Oshiara doesn't really do a lot either with a wall of Broccolome. But, yeah, the Ninja Jutsu. I think he's just going to want to burn the Ninja Jutsu on this Saipat here and allow the Oshiara to just go down. I don't see Oshiara really having a lot of value besides burning that Ninja Jutsu. It is an OX.
There's the Lava Wave.
This might be enough to take out the Tuvin, even though it is very, very tanky. It is not enough. Got the Gatling doing about almost 80% there, 75 approximately. Very good damage.
So with the Saipat overexerted, this is actually a fairly free heat up turn for Seismunch. It can take some damage from Tuvin, but it just kind of gets to heat up for free. I wonder if you're as far behind as Lulu is, as he was on that turn, I wonder if he kind of did that stay-in play with Hazrat Osiara, just to sort of speed check Magnetonics a little bit, be like, okay, how fast actually is your Saipat? How tanky actually is your Tuvin? This sort of information can help him fight this lead more adequately in future games. But I wouldn't count Lulu out exactly just yet, but it is looking pretty grim. Sizemunch has almost no way of dealing damage to Tatsu or Broccolum, and Saipat can come at it pretty hard as well, so a bit difficult for him to make hay with this Tem, but he will at least get to click heat up and go from there.
It's worth noting that earlier on I said that this is going to be the battle of creativity. I think that's also going to be taking into account the TVs. We've seen a lot of really weird speed tiers in the early going. This Ragnet is also going to be doing very well. Only thing it doesn't really check is that Broccolum. Turbine coming down. It's half damage. Not going to do too much, and it actually takes out the Tuvine itself. There's that heat up that you were mentioning, completely free. Hazrat a little pressured with that for sure. We might be seeing a Broccolum here. Broccolum's kind of nice into this board. There is a Broccolum.
A bit of a questionable turbine overexertion there from Magnetonics. Just kind of like you said, he gave the Sizemunch for free.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just thinking about it, it's a very strange play. Unless, I mean, looking at Mag's team, he's got Sensei Robe on the Broccolum, so he can go for like a sleep play after the Sizemunch wreck here. Oh no, it'll get blocked because this Broccolum is camouflage, not Mephroditism.
Yep.
So that option's not available. So Sizemunch will have to do a single target attack. Hazrat going for the Venoclaws. Ragnus just going to minus def this Broccolum a little bit here.
Gives it camouflage before the Sizemunch is wrecked. That Hazrat is going to go down for sure, though.
Ooh, from the Toxic Farewell, plus the Plague from Broccolum, that's going to hurt.
Get some damage. The stamina count, the HP count, the 2 ticks of poison on this Sizemunch. Sizemunch doesn't have many turns left in its future.
Yep. On the other hand, Lulu has kind of balanced out the Tem count a little bit here. Now we're 3-on-3. Saipat's coming in from Mag. I wonder, does Lulu have some sort of way to deal consistent damage with Sizemunch here? Because if he can do so, I mean, a Ragnet Electro Punch just kind of scores a pretty hefty kill on Saipat here. And then things start to get pretty interesting. But no, Mag's got the speed. He's first. Oh, but it's on the Ragnet, so Sizemunch will get to attack. Broccolum goes for the Soul Shout. Oof,
yeah, this is
tough.
when Magnetonics is kind of looking at the board and saying, hey, this Ragnet can do Electro Punch to my Tatsu. It can do Electro Punch to my Saipat. It does have Turbine as a move, potentially as well for Cryo. This Hazrat doing a Lava Wave onto Broccolum, already at -2, does a lot of damage. Eliminating that Ragnet was definitely needed there for Magnetonics.
I wonder if that's a reveal too, that like there's no Charged Iron Filings on this Ragnet, there's no Pai's Electric Blow, because both of those moves would have been available, and Lulu didn't click either of them. So that probably tells us that this Ragnet only has Electro Punch as a viable attack, and he's just going to concede out game number 1 here. Magnetonics.
That 1-0. Yeah, that was a very interesting game there. It showed us that Magnetonics can come out of the gate and go swinging if he needs to come out from hiding behind that wall. The wall of Saku, for example, that got banned there. He was able to go toe-to-toe with being able to output damage. The double swap from Lulu turn 1 gave a lot of tempo to Magnetonics to be able to allow that. Magnetonics being able to realize that Ragnet was actually a lot of pressuring, putting a lot of pressure onto the team in the mid game, and eliminating that was the way to secure that victory.
It's never a good sign when you double swap turn 1 and you take 86% damage total from your opponent's attacks. That's like not a good time, right? And that's basically what happened to Lulu, right? He took 50 on the Hazrat, 36 on the Osiara. That's way too much damage to take when you double swap turn 1. So he's punished for that, and we see a different approach to the draft now. Gario is going to be banned out first here, and that's going to be a Hazrat first pick. Lulu on the blue side now, doing things a little bit differently.
It's hard to swap with Lulu too, because there's not really a lot of Tems that like to take damage besides, Tuvine or Ragnet here. The rest kind of are a little bit squishier in comparison, of course.
I think it was somewhat a prediction that Magnetonics would not give up the tubing. Like the Lava Wave melee move pressure from Size Munch was like a threat to the tubing, and Lulu maybe could have interpreted that to mean that Magnetonics was going to swap. But Magnetonics decided to do no such thing. And now we've got a really interesting situation where into Duck, into Saipat, we do see Hazoret Oshiara open for Lulu here. Zhao being going to be banned out second, so both Digis taken away. That makes sense. A lot of digital weaknesses on Magnetonics' team, and yet Zhao being not really a viable opener into 2v Saipat, which makes sense. And we see the green bird instead of the pink bird showing up for Lulu here. But we do see that the matchup is starting to appear a little bit difficult for Lulu, right? He's got to break these heavy walls. His setup game plan is not really going well for him. So let's see what he decides to do early on here.
The Broccolum getting banned is actually a really good ban too, because it's not going to be able to wall the Oshiara. It does major damage to the Size Munch. It does major damage to the 2-Vine with things like Soul Shield, Sensei Rogue. Banning Broccolum is a very good pick there for ban number 2 especially. We'll see if that changes things. The Oshiara is in the lead, so Lulu does not have to swap out to the Oshiara like we saw in Game 1. We'll see if that allows an early pickup for Lulu to be able to get things going instead of losing tempo as fast as game number 1 showed us.
Yeah, there are no clean swap-ins for Tuving on turn number 1, so I would imagine that Magnetonics just does the same thing he did, right? When you're playing a more defensive team, like a bulkier team than Mags are, you really just want to hit Lulu turn 1. You just want to hit him and keep hitting him until he, like in last game, he runs out of options with which to make a play. So the struggle with that is that Lulu is constantly trying to make plays, right? So there has to be some clarity from Lulu this game on what he feels Magnetonics is going to do. And everyone stays in this turn, so that's probably better off for Lulu this turn. He's going to score some chip onto Saipat, decent damage on to the Tuveen.
Nox Bomb with Schween's Horn does about 41% to the Hazoret. He's going to leave Wastewater on Saipat instead, placing that Toxic Tick, but it is not enough to take out the Saipat even with that. The Feather Gatling does double up and take out the Hazoret. Makes this 2-Vine a little bit more open. The Toxic Farewell does a little bit of damage, the 10%, but no poison due to the bait. Here comes
Lulu has to
Size Munch.
Lulu has to pick a god and pray that he outspeeds this Nicho Sai here. Otherwise, it's going to get like really bad for him, I think. And there is a chance that Saku could simply come in for the Pat as well, but I don't think Lulu can risk that. He has to, I think, throw Water Blade at this Pat and try to bring it down before it can get a move off. Otherwise, I think he's just simply too far behind at that point.
Mag... see a Size Munch heat up here is a real question. Knowing that Oshiara has to look at this Saipat and knowing that 2-Vine can't Oko the Size Munch, might be able to do about 40-50% to it, but we'll see if Size Munch's heat up is going to be valued here.
Yeah, I think Magnetonics is completely comfortable with letting Lulu keep the OCR on board and is opting to pressure the Size Munch if possible. But we will see the 2-Vine swap out, so maybe it's sort of a hedge a little bit here, maybe against an uppercut coming in. And yeah, good for Lulu. He gets the Water Blade off.
Yeah.
That's a huge play for Luluchroar there, because now he gets the Size Munch heat up.
Now, we got to note that Size Munch is in the right position for this Mimit to come in for Size Munch's Wreck. Saku doesn't care about a Size Munch's Wreck at all, but the right slot of Magnetonics may care about that a little bit more. The tag team is going to be helping, but to what degree, you know?
Yeah, totally. This is not a fantastic board for Size Munch. Uppercut into Saku is definitely going to hurt. But this is kind of what I mean by making a play, right? Like, there's an opportunity for Lulu to get a free attack scaling on a Size Munch. The Size Munch doesn't have to stay in. this isn't even that bad of a Mimic board, right? You steal Tatsu, you start to develop your own tag team strategies with Tuving and Sizemunch in the late game. Let's see, the Sizemunch does leave. No, he's going for his own Tuving. This makes sense. This board is very hard to hit on turn 1 with these Temps. And he goes for another scaling move. So again, Lulu's trying to spin up some damage here, get himself farther and farther into the game, but it's a very well-resisted Cerbatio's Wrath.
The show off there allows for options like, oh, that's a big Frond Whip. That's a big Frond Whip. 100 to 0 Oshiara. That scale up is not going to be showing up. The show-off Tatsu is now going to put it in a position where it can either Nox Bomb. I was going to say Nox Bomb into the Oshiara, but it is no longer available. It can Heido Uchi. That'll do some damage to this Tuvien.
Really like this play from Lulu. So, Side-Pack gone. If he can start doing H-Slap plays onto Saku and Tatsu, all of a sudden, Sizemunch actually represents a fairly decent threat into them. Your Tatsu might resist Sizemunch Wreck, and it might have Tag Team, but if it's -4 defense, it's still going to take a lot of damage. And now Lulu has this sort of high tempo option to present this damage through in slapping and gatting, slapping and gatting, slapping and gatting. And it's hard for Mag to get Hazard in to threaten them out. So let's see what he goes for here. Yeah, it's going to be his own Tuveen. This time is determined, so it can't be slapped. And Lulu's going the other way.
Going into the Tatsu here. Breaking that down. That's -2. That's big. And all of a sudden, this Tatsu is now -4. This thing is going to get deleted by pretty much every attack that is available. Heido Uchi is slower. Does a significant amount of damage to the Tuveen when it swings back. But now you have things like Turbine at a -4 Tatsu. That's going to do some pretty good damage into it. This Magnetonics Tuvine is about half HP as well. Determined will make it so that it doesn't lose to Humiliating Slap, but you know there's a more healthy Mimic Tuvine on Lulu's side. So this is looking like a pretty good board for Lulu here.
It's a critical outspeed too, because now Lulu knows he doesn't actually need to commit Turbine to kill the Tatsu. He's faster than it. So he can just swing with Crystal Plume Gatling or Feather Gatling, or like swap them out, or even just leave here, right? Because he knows, yeah, Sizemunch can come in here to take a CPG, and this Mimic Tuveen is going to outspeed with CPG of its own. And it does hit, and it does KO. Yep, big outspeed there. Heads up play from Lulu, bringing in the Sizemunch. This is going to make the CPG whiff, and all of a sudden Lulu, his position is looking better and better. Because now you can't wall wreck. You can bring in Saku, but your Tuveen is going to take uppercut now. And with a wind move to cover from the Mimic, there's actually no safe swap-ins for this uppercut. So Tuveen looking a little bit in trouble here, going up against +3 attack Sizemunch uppercut. And we know the Saku has Frond Whip, but we know the Frond Whip was committed in a previous turn, so it's not up to threaten the Sizemunch this turn.
This is where the high impact gameplay of all of these players have. Lulu is able to adapt very, very well, and adapting is something that is very critical in best of 3 games like this. Knowing your speed tiers, knowing what your opponent is likely going to do, catching them on swaps, hard reads, whatever it needs to be. The adapting game is really, really, really critical, especially when we're coming to 3v3s like this. This mid game is it could go either way. It is favored for Lulu now.
Magnetonics is running out of time. There's 10 seconds of reserve time on our screen. We think it's Mag. It could also be Lulu thinking about a decision here. And he actually decides to leave on the Sizemunch, which is very interesting. This is probably for a Humiliating Slap play. Oh, it's to take a Turbine.
That's half damage there. That's a good swap.
Yep, and the Humiliating Slap is going to connect with the Saku. This means that Sizemunch uppercuts are really going to start to chunk it.
There's a -2. That's big. That is a OX Mimic. It is a Lightful Sap, just to try to heal up a little bit. But at what point is that Lightful Sap going to be effective? You know, you're -2. You have a +3 size munch in the back just waiting for a big swing here. The swapped in 2 Vine can also return with a humiliating slap if it really wants to chunk down more of Magnetonics' defenses here. This is when percentages start to kick in, and this is where math is starting to take a factor here. You have the advantages for ×2, like Hazrat's on 2 Vines, but you know, when you're -4, math kind of kicks in and decides to take over those ×2 advantages.
If I'm Lulu, I think I'm strongly considering taking my Mimit out here, but he's going to keep it in for this turn. Maybe he feels like he can do it with the wind moves, and Magnetonics is taking so much pure damage. He commits the Frond Whip. Wow!
Big damage to the 2 Vine, takes that thing out, but now he doesn't have that for Size Munch. What is his Size Munch play? That's the real question.
Man, Mag, you need that Frond Whip, man. Like, this Size Munch is ready to rumble.
The Size Munch is more free than anything.
It's so hard for Magnetonics to protect the Saku now, because if Lulu just follows up with like a CPG or even a Feather Gatling at -4 defense, this is a great way to take out attempts that try to prolong their stay using moves like Lifle Sap. Lifle Sap is less useful the more you attack attempts' effective HP by lowering its defenses. So now this is it. He's got to KO this Size Munch. Turbine doesn't quite do it. Feather Gatling. This is to cover the Hazrat swap, but it still does so much damage.
It
Size
was
Munch.
the uppercut. Big damage into the
Down it
does
goes.
take it out. 2 Vine is out of stamina. Uppercut is able to most likely take out this 2 Vine, but then there's also the Hazrat here. This is where a Size Muncher's Wreck is going to be doing major damage. We have seen Size Muncher's Wreck into this Hazrat before. It's going to take it out at +3. Hazrat's not going to be able to tank that at all. And with 2 Vine having no stamina left,
the wastewater gets tanked, and now it's time for the rock bottom, man. Here comes Size Munch Wreck. Ooh, the tubing lives,
big,
but it's not enough.
Down.
The Toxic Farewell, not quite enough to bring it down either. Oh, but it's got the Feather Gatling. Will that overexert?
And now we're in a 1v1 situation,
Yeah.
but more HP is going to be the
a very
factor.
A very stacked 1v1 situation as Lulu will clean up game number 2 off the back of a huge Size Munch Wreck. Well played by both players.
We have another game 3 in winner's bracket. Game 3 happened in the first game. Game 3 is happening here. The takeaway for Lulu there was backing up the Tems with moves like Heat Up, Serbatio's Wrath, just to try to get ahead. But then the humiliating slap to kind of break that wall down, like you were mentioning before game number 1, was where Lulu was able to get back into the game and tie the series up.
Yeah, and you could see that, like we were talking about, Lulu is constantly positioning himself to try and, like, wind up, like, start up the engine and get revving, and he found a couple ways to do that with the double green bird, with the Size Munch heating up on a great turn with the Water Blade. That Water Blade turn was so crucial. If Magnetonics gets the outspeed with Nicho Sai there, that game is completely different. As we're right back into the draft. So now Lulu is going to have to make this work without the advantage of blue side counterpick, which is what he had in game number 2. So this creates a different pick ban situation for both players. Magnetonics, for the 3rd straight time, has gone for the Munko ban, not wanting to play that, and that makes sense. It's very good against his team. So now Lulu is going deeper into reserve time, and we will see the Gary banned again. So opening bans, same from both players. Will we see the same opening picks?
Banning the Munko makes complete sense because it also forces Lulu to look at that Gario a little bit harder and forcing that ban out, which allows Magnetonics to just play his team.
With Lulu's upper bracket life on the line, he's going to double Zalbian for the first time in this set. If that's not courage, if that's not confidence, I don't know what is. He's sitting in front of a crystal move, and a wind move, so almost immediately we have a guessing game as to whether or not these the Zalbian Mimid is going to go for. Is it going to go for Heat Up to try and take over his team? Is it going to go for like Wastewater? Is it going to go for Electro Punch? All of those moves like drastically change what the right move for Magnetonics to click is on turn 1, which makes this like such an interesting opener now. Oh, and especially with the Brockolims. I mean, if Lulu has Heat Up, he might just use it.
I feel like Broccolum feels kind of like a bait here, trying to force a Wastewater, getting Camouflage up, and then allowing the Tuvine just to Feather Gatling one of these Zeobians. But yeah, like you mentioned, what is stopping Lulu from doing Heat Up here? You know, you're not going to be taking major damage with the Feather Gatling. It's not going to be ×2 return fire. It's not going to be Crystal Plume doing a lot either. Will we see maybe the Heat Up into Electro Punch? Heat Up into Wastewater?
The main thing that stops Lulu from clicking Heat Up is there's actually probably a greater than 50% chance that he just doesn't run it. Zalbian has a lot of very powerful coverage moves. Turbine, Wastewater, Electro Punch. Also, Crystal Bite is a great coverage move. And not too long ago, you know, Cyber Claw and Turbo Attack were buffed to the point where they're also viable coverage moves. So there is a chance, and I haven't actually seen that many of Lulu's games previously. I don't recall the Zalbian having clicked Heat Up, so it's possible he has it. But even if he doesn't have it, there's still like a dynamic here where if Lulu doesn't click Electro Punch and Magnetonics goes for CPG, it's way different. As we see the backline sort of being developed here, Magnetonics is going to get Scarable for the first time in this game. And Lulu's going to pick Ragnet, which is a sort of unorthodox counter to it, pulling its moves aside and threatening it with Hypnosis on turns where Chamomile is down.
There was something that I was mentioning before the game even started. It was that this Scaravolt, without the check of Size Munch and no other Earths, this Scaravolt could run rampant. The only thing that we really see on Lulu's side now is Oshiara to really check it. I believe Meg was running the Good Friend Scare as well, so we won't see the 50% HP discount that this Scaravolt's going to take from half full. I wonder if the Scaravolt is going to be able to be the deciding factor.
There's like a 3% chance that Lulu's playing Mechanical Heat Zalbian here, right? No, we don't see it. Zalbian swaps out. Osiara in front of these two is a yikers, man. Here we go. What are we going to see?
Big Beard is there. Is this a swap into... It is Stera. Oh. There's the check.
The Mimic hits it. Yeah, it's not a great Wastewater, obviously, as the Chamomile will block the Toxic Tick. But, oh, Mag goes for CPG. He was expecting E-Punch. He doesn't punish with the Feather Gatling, and that can be very big for Lulu. He gets to change type again on Zalbian, and also, if he wants to, he has the opportunity to go for Serbatios on Osiara. Now, this is crucial. If his Osiara is faster, then Good Friend will redirect the Zalbian's attack. If the Zalbian is faster, then obviously you can't redirect a spread move. So Serbatios Wrath, if Lulu wants to double target Osiara, double target Tuvine, he's going to need to get ahead of things. But instead he's going to swap out, making another pivot. It's Ragnet to protect the Osiara. Does Magnetonics see this coming?
This is where Ragnet is really, really big to protect squishier Tems like Oshiara from Scaravolt. The E-Custodian, of course, to redirect. Nox Bomb into Oshiara.
Does he have E-Storm? Oh, well played by Mag. Well done.
He does see the Ragnan swap.
Oh, lives!
Not enough to take out the Oshiara at 2% HP. This is quite a tankier horse.
Oh my god, this is crazy, man. 2%, that's... Oh, wow. Mag's got to get out of there again. He does have two natures that can come in and resist things, but, like, Lulu's not obligated to stay in with his Oshiara now, right? He can absolutely leave if he wants to. The Scarable can't get off another attack. It's threatened by Ragnet, but the Tuvine actually still completely threatens the board. It makes this very, very difficult for Lulu. If he's outsped by the Turbine, he's going to have to be careful here, but otherwise a Tsunami is very valuable. And Mag, fearing that, will retract the Scarabolt, bring in the Natures to start to resist the water damage. What is Lulu going to go for? He does go for the Tsunami. So this is
Tsunami.
all about if his Ragnet can do something about the 2v. No, it's going to be perfect jab.
Minus defense, gives it the camouflage CPG onto the Ragnet. Good damage onto the Ragnet, but not quite enough to take it out. 2 Tems on Lulu are hanging on by a thread here, but Oshiara is going to most likely be the fastest Tem on the board here. And Ragnet also has the options of Turbine to also be fast. Broccolum is being able to dodge with that turn of Camouflage, and it is -2 defense, so maybe Lulu's looking for a Hazoret later on this Broccolum.
I can't believe Mag let that Oshiara live. Like, that's... Yeah. Like, he has so many good options to hit swaps with Feather Gatling there that he left it, and Lulu is just playing this game with such a great deal of bravery. Like, he stays in for the Water Blade here. Does this KO the Oshiara? No. Oh, but the Broccolum outspeeds the Ragnet. That's tough. Lulu
right now is looking at a wall here. He has a dodging Broccolum and a Saku.
He goes for the Electro Punch. That makes sense that he was outsped. And the Saku's going to take it. So a nice Saku swap from Mag here. Lulu maybe a little bit too brave on keeping the Oshiara in. But now this is
Hazoret from coming in, though.
Yeah, I mean, the Turbine from Saku is definitely threatening. Like, Turbine plus Soul Shout might be enough to just KO the Hazoret, so there's some care that needs to be taken here. But if Lulu knows he outspeeds with Ragnet, he's got Hypnosis. He can use it. It's a great way to protect the Rat, especially if the Rat decides to go for a Heat Up here, as there aren't that many things left that can sort of deal with Hazoret. So a Heat Up Hypno play into maybe bringing in a second Rat on the Mimit slot to sort of protect things here could be an option for Lulu. But primary things that check Hazoret are Tuveen, Scarabolt, and Tatsu. 2 of them are very weak. But instead, Lulu's looks like he's just going for the KO here.
Play into the Ragnet will take that out. Now it's time to see what is going to be faster here. Is it Hazoret? It is Hazoret indeed. That's going to take out that Saku with the perfect jab previously. And this Broccolum is a little terrified of this Hazoret being -2, and of course Lava Wave and Wastewater is able to check it. The 2-Vine being very, very low, not able to take any moves here. Is this just going to be Tatsu for the tag team?
Yeah, I would imagine Mag goes for Tatsu here. So what do you do if you're Lulu? It's Zalbian, not the Mimit. So he says he only wants to play with just one, please. Just one Rat for the remainder of the game so far. Yeah, you start to wonder, with the Mimit in the back, what is the Tem that you want to take? Can you go for a left side Mimit here, or is Lulu going to try and reposition the board again a little bit here? It's hard to say. The Broccolum at -2 defense is likely threatened by Hazoret Wastewater here, or even Zalbian Wastewater. They're both very, very strong, but that does leave those Tems vulnerable to a huge amount of wind damage from the Tatsu, who can come in with Feather Gatling. And it's the fastest Tem on the board, too. Lulu taking big damage on Rat.
Hazoret. Wastewater, is this enough? With the -2, it is not enough, even with the Toxic Tick. Inner Spirit return fires into. It is going to be on the Zalbian. It's going to be a split hit here.
Which means that
Electro Punch.
Yeah, that Lulu goes for E-Punch here. When that's a lot of damage.
Tag team is coming in to protect this Tatsu by just a little bit. Broccolum has a turn of dodge, and it is going to be needing a double up if it wants to get taken out here, but that leaves this Tatsu completely wide open if he does want to double up on his Broccolum. I don't imagine Broccolum gets touched here.
This is such a complex turn on the Broccolum slot. Lulu probably has to KO it because he doesn't want his Mimit to take a Broccolum, because that can't beat what Magnetonics has left. But if the Mimit takes Tuveen or Scarabolt, he does have some opportunity to deal enough damage with, like, it's a physical Mimit, so Embers actually threatens a KO on Tuveen. And also his Zalbian can threaten a kill on Scara as well, and the T-Strike threatens a kill on Tatsu perhaps as well. So what slot, because the Hazrat is the Tem that is threatened to die here. So Lulu has to basically stop Mag from getting that value somehow. But Mag's gonna swap. Oh, this is for Scarebolt. This is so crazy.
It's gonna be a nail biter. The marble.
Lulu actually takes the wow. He's taking the Broccolum.
Maybe he wants camouflage of his own here.
Oh, T-Shrap. This means that Zalbian actually can't be brought down by a melee move from Broccolum. Oh, and Mag doesn't remember that, and he goes for it. Oh, wow.
Oh, boy.
Mag gets Mechanic Dift. Huge Nutbar heal play there from the Zalbian.
That Nutbar, I believe, healed about as much damage as that Broccolum did. Very, very close, too. Stealing that Broccolum makes it so that Tuveen or Tatsu may not be able to KO it, and it also gets camouflage from this as well.
And this is now, he's got speed on that Mimit, so it's practically a free melee move targeting the Scarebolt slot. He either gets Scarebolt or he gets the Tuveen swap in, so it's all down to like whether or not Zalbian can score this kill on Tatsu with T-Shrap, or if he can get outsped and KO'd by the Tatsu instead. It's so close between these two Temps here. Zalbian at 27% with a Nutbar. It's pretty bulky. Maybe Mimit tries to do something to help it get ahead. There's just all this opportunity. Like, Lulu's running T-Shrap, so he's probably not running Cyberclaw, which means his only prio option is Turbine, which isn't gonna cut it. Yeah. This is so tight. Energy. This is really, really close.
Scarebolt's just gonna get freely taken out with that Plague. Mimit is first. Now it's time to see if the Feather Gatling is going to be first to take out the Zaobian. Zaobian is out. Down. And now we have Tuvine Hazrat. Two Temps that don't want to square off with each other.
I think I'm about to eat my words on this Caspi flat. I think this Broccolum is actually just about to win the game for Lulu. Like it's the speed. He's got speed on it. And the marbles tick from the Hazrat likely puts Tuvine in Plague range now, even if Lulu is like completely uninvested. So that's a huge pivot and swing. Like this Tatsu can keep killing Lulu's Temps. Like the Hazrat can go down here. Although if it has Venomous Claws, it can get ahead and chip the Tatsu a little bit. But
we did see Venomous Claws from Hazrat previously, I do believe.
There's the Plague.
Plague is enough to take out the Tuveen.
Oh, and Magnetonics is wisely, he's dodging the Toxic Farewell Bomb here by going for the Mimit instead. But the Rat's going to get to attack in that case.
Camouflage, Embers, hit, burn.
He can't hit it. It's over.
That's game over.
Wow, Lulu clutched it out with the Mimit. What a play. What a set.
Wow.
Man,
Lulu
that was a huge set.
Come back for sure. That was down 1-0, comes back 2-1. There was a lot of marbles value in that game. There was a lot of adapting after that game number one. It almost seemed like it was extremely one-sided for Magnetonics after that game one, and that gave a early advantage. But Lulu was able to adapt, and then the creativity of the team of Lulu and knowing his team so well was able to bring that and take a 2-1 victory.
Yeah, when you play teams that like live and die so much about your ability to create outplays with your team, a lot of times you're gonna look kind of dumb when you lose, and like that's kind of what game one was, right? Like Lulu went for a double swap Mimit play, and Mag just like bopped him on the head, and so you look silly for the rest of that game, right? But when he gets it playing, when he gets it cooking in all through the game 2 and game 3, you can see like there's so many options he's giving himself to like create value in different situations, create tempo in different situations, and Mag's team really just doesn't have as much variety in its mode of play, so he has to be very careful to like not give Lulu his outs. And in game 2 and game 3, Lulu found his outs and managed to win the series off of that. So close. Very clutch play from both players. Lulu going on to winners finals.
Seeing a Digicore from Lulu forced Magnetonics to ban those out, as we saw Munko getting pretty much freely banned in all 3 games, number 1. And it allowed Lulu to play the rest of his team, the scaling Temps. And that was critical to bring that game in favor for Lulu there.
Absolutely. I think this is the highest Lulu has ever placed in a TemCS tournament before. So this is really interesting. He's kind of like been trying a lot of different things, like cooking a lot of different things over the last half a year or so. And it's sort of culminating into something that's pushing him farther than he's been able to push himself in these tournaments, which is really impressive to see. If you told me that there would be two players from PDX in winners finals, I would not have picked not Senior Plat. But this is what we're going to be looking at with Lulu and Yurem performing the way they have so far, which is impressive to see. In the meantime, I think we're throwing to the desk. So if you have anything else you want to say before we get going there, B Flat?
No, I think that's everything there, but losers bracket, so we can see what is going to be happening down in that bracket down there, and I think we'll be back later to cast some more games.
Good morning, Jay. Good morning, chat.
Hello.
What a wonderful day for Temtem for the day 2 of this invitational. I'm so excited to be here.
Some exciting matches so far.
Truly. This has been a pretty good day so far. I'm excited to see where this goes from here. But how do we feel about that last set, man? What about that game 1? What can you tell me about that?
No, it seemed like it was really rough for Luluch in that first game. He kind of had a volatile lead and was forced to double swap out because Magnetonics got the counter pick, and then from there he was just on the back foot the entire game. Magnetonics really just able to apply pressure and secure the win.
Yeah, it's worth noting that in this matchup, specifically between these two types of strategies, like you've got Magnetonics that's on a more bulky mid-range style team versus Lulu, who's on a more aggressive, speedy version. In this matchup, you're talking about the speed Tems are losing a little bit of value because of the wasted TVs in speed. Like if Magnetonics' team is going to go second no matter what, you're losing out a bit of stats that way. It's a little bit inefficient. So Magnetonics, I think, had the edge going in on just the build and the matchup itself. And we saw that game 1 with, you saw Lulu on the back foot having to switch, and all Magnetonics had to do was press forward and apply pressure. We saw almost a Tem's worth of value lost on the first round. And then game 2, we saw a better lead from Lulu.
Yeah, able to get that position. He was able to get into game 1 on turn 2, but this time he was leading with it, so it was a lot different. And overall, able to punish Magnetonics just for not doubling in slots and being able to confirm kills.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, applying pressure, making Magnetonics have to make reads, or at least feeling like he needed to make a read in order to stay into the game or get ahead. I mean, that's what the aggro matchup is trying to do. It's trying to make you misplay, and it's going to punish you for it. I mean, I feel like that's just this. Yeah, that was the story of the third game as well. I think not doubling enough slots, guaranteeing those kills, just letting those aggro attempts get more value than they probably should have gotten.
I think for this next set we're going to be popping in to see Luluch versus Yurem in the winners finals. Okay.
This is going to be a great match. Obviously, winners finals. We just saw, sets from both of these players. It's going to be another matchup between a bulkier style team versus the faster aggressive strategy. So it'll be interesting to see how Yurem deals with this constant pressure from Lulu. But I think before we get to that, we'll probably take a quick break. And we will be back in a few minutes.
We'll be back shortly.